Hello and good afternoon. My name is V. I'm from Florida State University, and I'm joined this afternoon by one of our new co-editors for New Directions in Student Leadership. Welcome.
Hey, V. It's nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
So you are one of the co-editors for an upcoming issue of New Directions for Student Leadership. But before we get into that, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm Lindsay Hastings, and I serve as the Clifton Professor in Mentoring Research and the Director of Nebraska Human Resources Institute at the University of Nebraska. And I'm here also on behalf of my co-editor, Cindy Kane, out of Bridgewater State University.
Fantastic. And so you've been doing a ton of diligent work. Please tell us more about your issue.
Well, sure. Our issue is dedicated to the role of mentoring, coaching, and advising for developing leadership. You know, mentoring, coaching, and advising often get confused as being similar developmental interactions, but really their scope, purpose, and utility in leadership development are distinct. The idea behind this issue is to provide clarity around those distinctions, as well as provide some focus and energy around how to develop leadership educators to understand when is mentoring the best fit for meeting a student leadership need, when is advising the best fit, when is coaching the best fit.
So you've clearly brought a ton of expertise and knowledge to this project, and we're certainly very diligent.
We hope.
Yes, and very diligent in selecting your chapter authors. Was there any element of a particular chapter or the construction of the volume in its entirety that you found surprising or unexpected?
What was so fun, V, was to see the possibility of mentoring, coaching, and advising for leadership development. You know, for most of us who work in leadership education and leadership development in both K-12 and higher ed spaces, when we think leadership development, we automatically go to the intensive 3-day, 5-day experience. And those are wonderful, don't get me wrong, but what we're learning from our pals like Dave Rosh, what we're learning is that at the end of those really intensive experiences, when everyone's hugging and crying, we see gains, but 3 months later, those gains taper off. And so what I've realized throughout this entire process is the power of mentoring, coaching, and advising for taking those gains, those intensive leadership development experiences, and then maintaining those gains. How can we translate what students are learning in those intensive experiences to their positions, leadership positions on campus, to their personal life, to their leadership aspirations. So I think mentoring, coaching, and advising have serious power in taking leadership learning through intensive experiences or through coursework and actually translating it into more effective practice for our students.
Sure. Yeah, I think the issue of sustainability of student effort, but also our effort, is something that would require a considerable amount of additional study. Were there any other elements or pieces of knowledge that you felt as though could warrant additional study, but maybe didn't have enough space in the issue to further elucidate?
Well, one thing I know that I want to look into further is the notion of assessment in mentoring, coaching, and advising. I think all of us would point to our mentors, our coaches, and advisors as being people who created these transformational experiences for us. But probably most of us would not point to a time where we were assessed on that transformation, right? We don't think of going to see our mentors and then at the end of that session taking a quiz, right? We don't think of doing that. But the fact is, in a time of accountability, we need to show as leadership educators that our efforts in mentoring, coaching, and advising are indeed transforming students. So one thing I want to look more into, Dan Bureau and Justin Lawhead did a great job of creating a chapter on assessment, and I'm so excited to take that idea and how can I document through our leadership mentoring program, for example, at the University of Nebraska, how can we meaningfully document how students are transformed by virtue of a mentoring relationship or a coaching relationship or an advising relationship.
Yeah, I do think that the value of assessment and evaluation, aside from being personally rewarding, also adds value to the work that we do and helps sell the credibility of the effort that we put in behind it. So that makes a lot of sense to me. I've heard you talk about mentors, coaches, and advisors. When you think about the audience for this particular issue, is it mainly members of those populations? Would it fit well in the hands of other people? Who is this really for?
Great question. So I think the content in this issue is relevant for youth leadership program directors, 4-H and extension educators, student affairs professionals, academic affairs professionals, certainly those who are directors of mentoring, coaching programs, as well as those who serve as advisors. in a higher education space, but also in the K-12 space for advisors for career student organizations or student leadership groups, or even those who work in counseling, I think could benefit from the content in this issue.
Great. So it sounds like something everyone should read.
I'm pretty excited about it. I hope everyone does.
Yeah, I'm excited to read it too. So we'd like to thank you all for joining us today and look forward to the upcoming issue.
Thanks.